as we stay with those first pictures. And I also want to cut across to my colleague Gaurav Sawant, who has been reporting live from Tianjin. Gaurav, the moment we've all been waiting for Prime Minister's touchdown in Tianjin, he walks down the red carpet and the cultural welcome that he receives.
Very crucial visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Tianjin, China, his first in 7 years, and very important from the point of view of a multilateral visit. You remember, this is the 25th Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit. The Prime Minister here to be a part of a visit where India-China relations, they are on a mend. However, this isn't a bilateral visit in the sense of a bilateral visit in terms of the entire focus being between India and China. The focus here will remain multilateral. The Prime Minister's interactions, of course, with the Chinese President Xi Jinping, from what sources tell us, are likely to be at least 40 minutes long. He will also be having a meeting with the Russian President Vladimir Putin and with several other leaders from Central Asian republics. So this is a crucial visit when it comes to a very important regional grouping or a Eurasian grouping, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. However, do we see much moving forward on the bilateral front between India and China? Well, there are some steps that have already been taken. There are some more steps that are likely to be taken. But a major breakthrough in India-China relations, in a summit-level meeting, perhaps we will have to wait longer for that.
Continue talking to us as we stay with these pictures, because fact is that America is watching every development very closely and rather uncomfortably. What can one expect from this power play?
On the world stage, this power play is being watched very closely by the Western countries, because many analysts in the West have argued that President Donald Trump has pushed India closer towards Russia and China, something that America was desperately trying for the past 25 years. That should not happen. We were reporting the Pokhran nuclear tests, the sanctions that America had imposed on India in 1999, the Kargil war, then the lifting of those sanctions gradually, and the improvement of India-US relationship over 25 long years. When baby steps were taken, next step in strategic partnership, to the civil nuclear deal, to every government in India and in America, whether it was a BJP government or a Congress government or a BJP government again, or the Republicans and the Democrats in the United States, there was heavy investment in India-US relationship. There's something that India was very proud of, as were the Americans, that India had bipartisan support in the US Congress, as it still does to a large extent. However, Donald Trump 2.0 saw all of that being thrown out of the window, with Donald Trump not just imposing sanctions, imposing tariffs on the world, including on allies and friends like India, but also 25% penalty or sanctions, as the White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt called it, on India for buying Russian oil. And America perhaps expected India to buckle under pressure, and India did not, because India very clearly stated to the world that it was the Biden administration that had urged India to buy more oil. Prime Minister Narendra Modi stood tall at a time when you had European Union leaders, the leadership in several other parts of Asia, that was virtually kowtowing to the Americans. India did not. This is something that China is watching. This is something that Russia is watching. And this is where perhaps every country sees an opportunity for their personal gains. So in every country seeing some personal gains, is it possible for mutual gains also to happen? Now, India does not want great relations with America at the cost of China, or great relations with China at the cost of America. And this is the diplomatic tightrope rope walk that India is doing, because India has constantly wanted better relations with every country, and which is what explains our multi-aligned policy. However, with China, you had whether Doklam in 2017 or Galwan in 2020, a relationship nosedive. Again, there's something that we've been covering very extensively. The 2014 visit of Chinese President Xi Jinping to India, to Ahmedabad, where there was a lot of warmth from the Indian side, and you had then Chinese incursions taking place simultaneously. However, the two countries were trying to negotiate relationship. Now, right now, when you look at the situation, what Prime Minister Narendra Modi is also attempting to do is to reduce the trade imbalance. $100 billion, $99.2 billion in China's favor. And India wants to, reduce that trade imbalance, export more to Chinese market. China wants India to open the Indian market even further, but then India wants more access to the Chinese market and of course stability at the borders, because India has made one point very clear: peace and tranquility at the borders is a prerequisite for this relationship to moving forward. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi was recently in India and he indicated that the recent tensions at the borders were not in the interests of the people of India and China. So does that mean that the disengagement that has already happened at the borders will lead to de-escalation and ultimately de-induction of troops? De-induction may be a long way off, but perhaps de-escalation is something that the two sides can work on. It will be done at the level of the special representatives on the boundary, at the level of the External Affairs Minister, and also at the level of Foreign Ministry and Defense Ministry level dialogue. So multiple level of dialogues are currently underway. This visit of the Prime Minister is more a multilateral visit, not a bilateral visit, point one. And point two, the apprehension in the West that there will be RIC summit, Russia, India, China, on the same plane, that's not happening is what sources tell India today. We are still waiting for an official confirmation on that. But, there needs to be a lot more groundwork before a summit can happen. And that groundwork still hasn't happened is what sources tell India today.